Hi friends, it's Ashley with my homeschool brain, where you get to dig out the juicy tidbits from up here and do what you want to with them. And this today is my beautiful co-host,
Molly,
or
Lizzie,
or
Sue.
Yeah, she has multiple names and it's super fun and there's lots of reasons for that. But anywho, she's going to help me with this video today. She's going to be our pretty face in the background, and then she will help us kind of go over what we're talking about here in a little bit. Today I wanted to talk to you about the Spell to Write and Read program. A few videos ago I told you that at some point when we were trying to decide curriculum earlier, that I couldn't decide between two spelling programs. One was the Logic of English and one was the Spell to Write and Read. And I'm going to tell you, go with your instinct. Your first instinct is usually going to be correct. Both the Logic of English and the Spell to Write and Read have similar concepts, similar plans of action or scope and sequence type, but their execution's just a little bit different, and what you actually have to purchase is way different. So your Logic of English is a hardbound textbook that is very much so turn the page and go lesson type, kind of. The Spell to Write and Read is also turn and go, but there's a little bit more due diligence on your part as the teacher and things you have to do before you say, hey kid, let's break into day one. The cost was significantly different. I paid $350, I think, around that, for the Logic of English, and it came with the textbook and some essential readers and some workbooks, and I had to buy 2 of each one of those because I have 2 kids that are working these programs. It came with flashcards and game cards and tactile cards. There's a lot of stuff there. So it's not like it was just $350 for a textbook, because that's not what it was. There was a lot to it. And we loved the Sandpaper tactile cards with our cursive. If you don't want to use the Logic of English program, but you want to teach cursive, those flashcards are the best. Their tactile cards are sandpapery. The instructions are on the back. Like, it's a great system just for that kid who needs the hands-on stuff. And for the parent who's like, oh, how do you make an A? Well, it's on the back of the card. Just read it. So it's a good program as far as that goes. I do like their flashcards. They were nice, thick, heavy cardboard. But again, I didn't like the system. I didn't like the way it was executed. It was very bright, very colorful, very easy to read, transcript-like. And so it would say, you know, our teacher, and then you'd read, and then what you would expect the student to respond. Teacher say, what you expect. Very systematic. I don't do well that way. I don't like just reading from a book. When it's like that, I'd rather have that eye connection and that real deep conversation and the pauses that come with it, whatever that is. For a classroom where you have 20 kids, that probably works really, really well. Here at my homeschool, we didn't like it. So we ended up putting the book on the shelf, and we were teaching off of the flashcards for a while, which was fine. We probably could have continued that. But what I was really doing was filling in that space between what I had just bought and when can I buy the new program that I should have bought in the first place. So the program I should have bought and went with my instinct is the Spell to Write and Read program. There are a couple fundamental differences between the Logic of English and the Spell to Write and Read. The Logic of English, you buy a textbook, and you can reuse that same textbook 3 times because it has 3 different levels of spelling words, which is fine. So in theory, you could use that book for 3 years before you have to buy the next one up. But most people probably don't do that. Most people probably just buy the next book. And if I remember right, and I could be off, I'm just gonna tell you, it's been a minute since I looked at it. The next book, I want to say it's like $60 a year, so not super expensive until you start getting a little bit higher up. in comparison to the Spell to Write and Read, which is a one-time purchase of the kit and an annual financial contribution of like $6 per kid every year. That's it. So cost-wise, there's a big difference, which is, again, why I should have gone with the Spell to Write and Read the first place. But, you know, it's easy to think, well, you get what you pay for, right? So if I only pay for $100 and I hate it, then I have to go spend another $350 on a program I'm gonna love, right? So why not just skip that first step and get the colorful one and the one that's laid out where you can just kind of turn the page, go and read, and it has all these great cards and all these great manipulatives and all these great things. Let's just not do your instinct, or at least that was my instinct. And it was a fail. And it wasn't a total fail because I do love the tactile cards. I do love the Logic English games. We still play the games from Logic of English. It's way fun. But I should have gone with my first instinct. So let me tell you what you get and for how much and what your annual cost is every year after that for the Spell to Write and Read. You will get, for $94.50 maybe, at least that's what it was when I bought it a couple weeks ago, you'll get your Spell to Write and Read teacher's manual. It's a pretty good sized book. There's lots and lots of words in here. Don't panic, bear with me. I'll help explain a few things. Looks very confusing, looks very overwhelming, but it's not turning out to be so. So give me some grace here, just a minute, and bear with me. The second book that is a necessity, you must have this, is The Wise Guide for Spelling. So this book tells you all the rules of any random given word on whatever page you're working on. And this one has your spelling words in it. So this is the word list, and this one is how to teach it. Pretty simple concept. Now I add ribbons. I just tape ribbons into the back of my books so I can mark my page or whatever. I don't know that it's necessary just yet, but it's forced to have it from my book, so I did it anyway. So you're gonna get those two things. You're gonna get 70 Basic Phonograms CD. Hi, Ryder. That's Ryder. Which helps you as the teacher make sure you are hearing and pronouncing all the phonograms in the correct way. You will also get flashcards. Flashcards are white of your phonograms, and the rule cards are yellow. And these are pretty neat. I laminated mine. They come on a fairly thin cardboard, cardstock. So what I like about them is here's your letter. On the back, it has information for the instructor and the student. It helps you as the instructor have a word that goes specifically with that phonogram. And then if you have a child who maybe has some speech problems, or maybe not, maybe it's just you're not saying it right, there's a speech tip here. So this is the letter B. It does not say B. It says B. And so that's one of those little tips on there. Then you get all the way through to your spelling rules. And so it is not a Q, even though we say our ABCs with the Q, it's actually now QU. You see that as one, it's multi-letter phonogram, but you see it as one sound. So here's your spelling rule on the back, that Q always needs a U, but the U is not a vowel here. Most commonly QU sounds like qu. And then it gives you, the teacher, some information about, in foreign words, this phonogram sounds like a K, like in bouquet, and not the qu sound. So it's very informational for you as the parent. I don't remember learning a lot of this stuff I'm fixing to teach my kids. We had very watered down phonics, very watered down phonics. So A makes how many sounds? I grew up thinking 2. Hey Molly, what are the sounds of A? A, A, ah. There's 3. So when I say watered down phonics, it's because they left stuff out. So I didn't realize some of the things that are in here. As an adult, like, it makes sense, like QU always goes together. We know that. We're old, we're reedy, we get it. So there's a lot in here that you're like, oh, that makes sense now. So no longer teaching watered down phonics. This is like 1970s phonics where they really grilled that stuff in. And do you ever notice, like, with our elderly who probably learned this kind of phonics, they're great spellers. Great spellers. Probably why. So the only thing that I had to buy extra, so your kit comes with the 2 textbooks, the CD, the flashcards. For less than $6, $5 and change, you have to purchase a learning log, one for each child you're teaching and one for you as the teacher. So this is mine, it says Mom on it. This is Molly's. These are the primary learning logs. And so what these look like on the inside, you can see it has the dotted line to help with letter formation on your paper. The black learning log does not have the dotted lines, and the spaces are, I believe, a little smaller. Could be wrong on that. Haven't quite jumped up to that step yet. So here's another fundamental difference between the Logic of English and the Spell to Write and Read. Logic of English was very much so, I can look here in the morning, open the book and see the phonogram cards I needed, pull those out, and then, okay, class time, we open and we read verbatim. This is not quite like that. Actually, it's not like that at all. The day before class or the weekend before class, you're going to look at whatever section of spelling words you're going to have, which this book is cool because it takes you from word number 1. Section A covers really simple words. Top, butt, and cat, red, 6, all, mine, not 10, hat, be, am, is, bed, run, ran, go, do, did. Very simple words. Their concept is that we're going to learn to spell and we're going to learn to read and learn to write based on the most common words that we use in our books, starting at like the pre-K level. So, you know, see, spot, run. And so you start off with those simple words that any preschooler book you can pick up off the shelf, and they could eventually just pick up and start reading, or at least recognize, hey, that's top, we learned top, or whatever. Then they build up to college level words. And there are 2,000 words in this book. The last section is hippopotamus, rhinoceros, aquarium, souvenir, maneuver, antiseptic. So pretty good sized words. Not medical terms, obviously hard, but hard for, you know, 5th grader, 6th grader, maybe. Sometimes I get stumbled up on words, I'm like, man, I can't remember how to spell that word. So it takes you from preschool level all the way to college readiness in one book. One book that you're gonna buy one time and continue, pick up where you left off year after year after year after year after year until you've completed the book. And then if you've got a toddler running around in a couple years, you start the process over from day one using this same book. So your initial $94.50 before taxes, not including your primary or your black learning logs, that same $100 is going to carry you for years and years and years and years, which is financially a great investment. One-time purchase, and then every year after that, it's $5 or $6 per kid per year investment. And there are, in the teacher's manual, they do explain that you can not purchase this if you want to, and you can use a composition notebook or a spiral bound notebook if you want. First time in, we're trying it this way, see how we like it, see how it goes, because it's not that big of an investment every year. For me, I have 2 kids at home, so that's what, $12 every year for spelling. That makes sense. The way the WISE guide is set up for teaching is very cool to me. Each week, you're gonna get 20 spelling words. It is a 2-page spread, which kind of sounds crazy, but it keeps you as the teacher from having to come up with your own stuff. So section G, word 121 is the word ask. And then it has a sentence that you can read. And then on the next page is the word repeated. And if there's any markings, which I'll explain all the markings and stuff here in a minute, it'll show you, the teacher, how to mark each word in your learning log and to help guide them in their learning log. And then it has any rules that go with it. So like the word ask, it says pronounce carefully, because if you don't say it just right, it comes out a wordy dirt. Makes sense. The word let. So it has the word let. Gravity will let you down. Repeat the word let. And the contraction for that is let us or let's. And then that's in your teacher's manual here, to spell, to write, and read. Step 28. When you're going over that word, you turn to page or step 28. And you pull information from here on contractions at the same time. And so it is very teacher intensive, very heavy in the teacher responsibilities. But I think with repetition and practice and just getting used to a new system, I think this is gonna be great. Molly, yeah. When you were doing your half of the spelling words yesterday in this book, was it super hard?
Not too hard.
Not too hard. Was it a little confusing at first?
Yeah.
And then once you got the hang of it, you think it's gonna get like easier?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, thank you, baby. Every week, I'm gonna say Saturday, pick a day, whatever day you wanna do it. You will sit down, go over the next section of spelling words, look at your preliminaries, pull out your cards, and do in your learning log, whatever it is they say. So the beginning of your spell, to write, and read has 11 steps that they advise you do every single year. You repeat those same 11 steps every year. I don't know that all of them are necessary. One of them is to review your numbers 0 through 9 and to write in your prettiest handwriting your single letter phonograms A through Z. If you got a 5th grader, I don't know how important that is. It might be super important, and you might have to decide as a parent if that's the step you want to take or not. But there's a test in here to make sure that you're starting your kid out on the proper level, and it's very thorough on the pre-homework. But then once you get in here, the scope and sequence is really easy. So if you're on, I don't know, let's just say here, section 0, right, of your WISE guide, and it has a very specific turn to this page thing. The scope and sequence is here in the very front flap. So you can go, oh man, what page was the 111 page? Oh, it's page 32, I got this. And so you can just go find that page really quick because it's right here in the front. The other interesting thing, and which is interesting, but it's homework for mom, again, teacher intensive, is when you pick out, you know, you're at section L-5, you have at the top what are the preliminaries, okay? These preliminaries tell you what spelling rule cards you need to pull out, what phonogram cards you need to pull out, and any reference pages from the teacher's manual that you need to review, go over, look out, and be prepared to teach. So you do that, then you get your learning log and execute whatever it is that they say to do in your learning log. And then you teach your kids the next day, and then you make sure that your learning log looks like their learning log. That way everything is kosher, you know, your kids are keeping up. All right, so one of the first things in that first 11 steps is to build your vowels and consonants page and your multi-letter phonograms page. So you as the teacher will get your book and you will build the consonants page, vowel page. And what this does is you list all your consonants and its markings. I'll explain those in a minute. Then on the bottom half with the vowels, you'll list all of your vowels, and then they will list one word for the most common sound. And they give you an actual picture of words that they use. This is identical to what they showed me in the book. So, ah for A is am, apron, and wasp. So we write those three in, then we move on to E, I, Y, O, and U. Fill those in. The markings were a little confusing for me in the, you know, first couple days of me just looking over this, because I'm like, man, where are all those at? Well, they're right here in your WISE guide with every section of words. So I would say lessons, but they call them sections. So if we're looking at section 1 or section A, which is our easy top, butt, and cat red books, if you look real close at the word all, you'll see a 3 there, or a little number there. I don't know if it's focusing in very good. That is your first markup. That is the third sound of A. And so you put a 3 over it. Okay, I kind of get that. So the first sound of A, which is ah, gets no marking because it's its most common sound. The second sound of A is the sound A, and it gets an underline, meaning that when we go back to read this word again later, if we see it's underlined, then it's automatically the second sound of A, which is the A sound. Then the third sound of A is ah, like father or wasp. And so instead of having no markings or an underline mark, it gets a number 3 above it, which tells you later in life as you're flipping through this, that is the third sound of A. So you'll mark each one of your vowels. If it has the first sound, it gets no marking. Second sound gets an underline. Third sound gets a 3 over it. When you know the watered down phonics would say when 2 vowels go walking, the first one does the talking. Well, in here, it has a upside down, like happy face, like smiley face mouth to connect the two. And there's just other markings in here, but it walks you through each one. So if you're looking at word list M5, I don't know if you can see all this. The word so, there's an S, OW is underlined with the number 2 above it because it makes the second sound of OW. If it's a silent E, it looks like it gets underlined twice. There's your upside down happy face with the 2 vowels going walking. So all of your markings, you don't have to know right now. It literally walks you through week by week what you as the teacher needs to learn and what the kids need to learn. I hope this is so not confusing for everybody because I'm trying really hard to make it not so. So now that we have kind of gone over markings and what you get in your kits, I want Molly Grace to come and help me, please. Get your chair and come here. Molly is starting. We started her learning log yesterday, and because of our learning curves, we're not doing all 20 words. We're doing 10 words this week, more so just kind of get used to the system. But I only had her do 5 yesterday because I kind of wanted to do a sample lesson for you of like what this would look like in everyday application. So on a blank sheet, you have this big open space here, and you'll write whatever section of the spelling bee words you're working on, which for her this week is A, section A. And then she will write in her neatest handwriting possible the other words, the other 5 that we didn't do. Now, let me stop real quick and tell you, I got a 3-ring binder. It's an old one, but that in the back of each one of these books is your step-by-step guide on what you should say as you're teaching each lesson. And so I just made a copy of it and I stuck it here. That way I'm not having to fumble with that. And so it's very clear. It walks you straight through. You ready, Liz? So here's what we need for this lesson. From a teacher standpoint, this lesson is pretty simple. It is the preliminaries. As the teacher, I need to have gone over steps 1 through 11, which we've already done. Reviewed and built in our books our consonant and vowel page, which I've done. We need to get out the phonogram flashcards of A through Z, plus SH, TH, OO, EE, and ER. We also need to reference in our teacher's manual here the multi-letter phonogram page, which I've done. Build it in your primary log, which I've done. And then we're ready to start class because we've done all of our homework. We know what cards we need. We know we've already built our log. So we are now prepared to teach the exact same way. So using their step-by-step explanation. So here is a sample lesson of how this would go on any given Tuesday. I have my step-by-step to do on how to teach this. And once you learn the system, you're not gonna need this anymore. It's like we're in week 1. So this is very, very new to me. I'm not being paid for this. I'm not being sponsored for this. I paid for everything myself. So I've got to learn the system. So we'll start off with pencils down, look at me.
Okay.
Then I tell the word that we're working on, which is 6. How many syllables does it have?
6.
How many syllables?
6.
1. So think to spell it. Six. Use your fingergrams.
Okay.
Good.
Oh. X.
Okay. Repeat the way we think it.
SIX.
6. Just
Six.
how do we think it? When we see the number 6, what do we think?
We think that
When you see the number 6, what's
Yeah.
the word that pops in your head?
SIX.
6, right. And so now you're going to write it as you think it.
Okay. Again.
Just go over it. Write it as you think it. Six. Okay. Now read the word.
6.
Okay. Now at this point, you're going to write the word on your erase board or your chalkboard or whatever you have. Six. And then you ask them, does yours look like mine? Does your word here look like mine up there?
Yes.
Are there any markings? At this point, the
No.
child may or may not know if there's any markings. But given time, they will learn the rules that will click. Yeah, that needs a mark, or no, that doesn't. So Molly, I asked you, does this need markings? You said no. mom, new mom that's working this program, you can look at your list, see the number 6. It has 0 markings, so she is correct. It does not get any markings. Now we're going to review your words. So after today's words are complete and they've all done, you've repeated these same steps through all 20 or 10 spelling words, you're just going to review it. So you're going to look at each word and see it as we think it. How many syllables does it have? Does it spell the way it sounds? And if not, why? And then you are already done with that learning log. You can go away now. So the system is not hard. It's just a lot of work for mom. But here's what I can see happening with my family anyway. You know, every time you have to go, you're right in the middle of something, you're cooking or you're on the phone and like, Mom, how do you spell? Eventually, they will be able to look at or think of a word that they want to use and break that word by decoding and encoding that word to be able to hopefully pretty much, if not 100%, spell it themselves. All on their own, total empowerment, way to go, you got this. Rather than the sight words or the watered down phonics where there's all these exceptions to rules and, you know, which one do you use when? That eliminates that almost 100%. If it is an English rule, there's very few exceptions. Most of your exceptions and your watered down phonics comes from words that are not English words. Maybe they're French words or German words. Now that I've kind of walked you through with one of my kids on how this system works and how a lesson plan would look, how a teaching execution would work, I want to kind of recap this a little bit. The Spell to Write and Read program is a old school 1970s-ish true real phonics program. It's not watered down. It is very teacher intensive, but I think that, of course, as you practice anything, you get better. It will go faster and faster and faster. I would say the average time to get through a lesson is 45, 50 minutes maybe, which sounds like a lot, but not really when you're trying to really hone in on a excellent foundation for spelling, writing, and reading. 45 minutes a day is not that much, but it is intensive for the parent until, like I said, things become super repetitious. The kit itself comes with the 2 workbooks, the CD, all the flashcards you need, and then you just buy a learning log for you, a learning log for each kid. The black logs have no dotted lines. The primary logs, which is this one, has the dotted lines. They do encourage to teach cursive exclusively. That's a parent preference. My kids have learned cursive. They don't like writing in cursive for whatever reason. They like manuscript. I let them do manuscript. It's fine. But using cursive does reduce the letter reversals for dyslexics. And it helps separate the words themselves. You know, if you print a sentence, there's all these spaces between all these words, and you could have extra spaces between the letters. Whereas with cursive, the is in one block, cat is another block, ran is another block, and it's very spaced out and even. It helps with all of that. But my kids have refused, chosen not to, which is fine. I'm all about letting them have some sense of control when it comes to their education, because eventually I want them to take their education and run with it on their own. And instead of just being told, no, you have to do it my way, they get a little bit of choice. So I'm letting them do manuscript instead of cursive, and that's cool. But if I were to tell you what additional things to buy for this program, in and itself, it doesn't need it. This program is not colorful. It doesn't have pretty pictures. It doesn't have cutesy sayings. It is very matter of fact, which kind of can make it come across more boring, especially if you're looking at little kids, you know, 2nd, 3rd, 1st, 5th grade. It might come across kind of boring. So to spruce it up, I would suggest combining the logic of English manipulative stuff, which I'll go over in a second, with this. Not that you use them at the same time, because it's not. The logic of English sandpaper tactile cards for learning cursive are amazing. They have the sandpaper card on the front with the sounds, the 3 sounds of A, and then how to form that A in cursive. If you're teaching your kids cursive, this is a really good resource to purchase. The other thing that we really like are the games, the phonics games from the Logic of English. I just photocopied them out of my book and I bound it right here. They have several different games. They have a phonogram Go Fish game, Rotten Egg, which is super fun. The phonogram Dragon game is really fun. There's phonogram Snatch, Eraser Race, the Team Up Challenge, the Blitz. And so I just copied, and they have a whole game book, and you can purchase that game book. I don't know how much it is off the top of my head. I'll link it below, but because I already had the book, I just made a copy of it. But it comes, then you have to purchase the game cards, which I just put here. And they suggest that you purchase these cards both in manuscript and in cursive, because again, in Logic of English, they really encourage cursive, but it's not required. And it has all your phonograms, your little game cards that come with it. So here's your dragon card to go with the dragon game. And like either Snatch It, like they're really cute. These are really good games to reinforce those phonics sounds. So after we've done our work yesterday, we got through the first lesson and they were enjoying it. They weren't loving it, but by the end they were like, hey, this is kind of fun, because it was, you know, you get to use your regular pencil to write words, and then you get to grab the red pencil to mark your thing. And it was just very engaged. They could ask a question or whatever, but they didn't hate it on their first day. So that's a pretty big deal. But then afterwards, we used the Logic of English game, and we played Rotten Egg yesterday. And I think we played it 3 times. We played it 3 times? 3 times. And it's just a super fun competitive game. So if I were you, I'd spend the $100 for the Spell to Write and Read program. And then I'll link below the Logic of English game book, game cards, and the tactile cards, the sandpaper cards, to get a really great, well-rounded, fun, but very specific learning of your phonics. This video is super long, and I'm hoping I did not confuse everybody entirely. We are in week 1 of this. I think I said that earlier, but we're in week 1. When I was looking on YouTube for more videos on the Spell to Write and Read program, there are a couple. There's a couple really good ones, but I'm the person who has to like have it in my hand. And so, you know, I just thought, well, since there's not a lot out there, maybe the way I explain it is a little bit different, and maybe putting all the pieces of all of the YouTube videos together, it'll all come together better for you. But I've got this one done. This video is about to wrap up, and in a couple weeks, I'm gonna make a second video to see how it's still going and seeing if we're still liking it, see if we're still including our phonogram, games from Logic of English, see what we're doing differently, or if we're doing it the exact same. And I might even sit down and interview the kids and see how they like it. So, how do you think about that? Ryder, you want to interview? Nope, he said. But he might do it for Mom. We'll see. So with all that said, thank you for spending 45 minutes with me. I hope you got enough out of this to make a decision if you haven't already made your decision, or maybe something to look at for next year. I hope I've helped. Hope I haven't confused everybody. So until we speak again, welcome to my crazy, and we'll talk soon. Bye.